assessing the damage caused by the tornado that estimates damages will run into millions of rands.
This community destroyed. Many of those who lost their belongings are still in a very difficult predicament. They are still sleeping in those small tents.
You know, transformation is such an important aspect of how we should be thinking about our cities. You know, our cities face a huge range of challenges, environmentally, from a socio-economic perspective, high levels of inequality and poverty. And so it's critical that we think about how we act to transform things in our cities. And so when we're talking about transformative adaptation in cities, we're talking about big systems changes, you know, fundamentally challenging the governance systems, the economic systems that perpetuate many of these cycles that we see of inequity, of environmental degradation and so on. And so really thinking about what that means for cities, for me, is very important.
So adaptation really is about adjusting to change. Transformative adaptation, though, brings in a different consideration. Because if we think about adaptation in its traditional sense, it's generally reactive, it's short term, it's about maintaining the status quo of a system. So you want to keep the system doing the same kind of things it was doing before the change happened. Whereas transformative adaptation delves a bit deeper. It talks about long-term future change. It questions the system as a whole and talks about systemic change. So much more proactive than reactive.
If one thinks of a region like KwaZulu Natal or eThekwini Municipality or the Umgeni catchment, what we've learned is that the streams and rivers of the municipality or the catchment are like the veins and the arteries of the city. So I think when one starts trying to work with climate adaptation and to create an idea about climate adaptation that's transformative, so that means you're not just dealing with immediate risk or trying to reduce the flood risk, but you're actually using your climate adaptation approaches to transform the city. So to move people out of poverty, to find progressive ways of dealing with informality, to find innovation around water and sanitation, which the city's trying to do, and particularly sanitation, which is such a high risk. The minute you start looking at those issues, you trace it back to water again, because water is one of the really important pathways that all of these problems come together and create the disasters that we see in the city. So rivers give you this amazing opportunity to deal with the challenges of the city, because it's in this way that people are connected.
The eThekwini Municipality boasts approximately 7,400 kilometers of rivers and streams, many of which are severely degraded and pose flood risks. To address this, various river management programs have been established.
So one of the reasons that Durban has been considered a leader in terms of climate change adaptation, and even they've been included in the transformative adaptation literature, is because they have placed ecological infrastructure values at their core in terms of responding to climate change. So the idea of building ecological infrastructure to reduce risks associated with climate change. So we're focusing on 4 different programs that have quite different models in terms of their implementation. We feel like there's a lot of learning potential across the different projects because of their different models and because of their different successes and also the challenges and lessons that they've each learned.
One of the management programs that embody some of these characteristics is the Silhanzimvelo Programme. The Sihlazimvelo Programme has been running for 7 years and is implemented and funded by the Roads and Stormwater Department of the eThekwini Municipality. Originally designed as an engineering solution, The aim of this program is to clear alien plants and waste from streams that block the city's culverts and thereby causing damage to the hard infrastructure during floods. To do the work, the city employs cooperatives in two major areas in Durban.
Where did it start? Our problem: blocked culverts, overtopping roads, flooded houses, people dying during floods because of blocked culverts. That's where it started. So that's the discussion. Where that's set is stormwater section, where I'm in, and roads and stormwater maintenance. Nobody has a mandate to clean a stream in the city. It's on no one's duty schedule or list to go and clean streams. Okay, so I understand that's part of the challenge. Is we have a national mandate in terms of Department of Water and Sanitation that the river falls under in terms of the Water Act. So that's the water itself. The property ownership underlies that is private and state and city-owned land. So there's various owners of those river sections. But where the roads cross the river was where we were seeing the major problem. And so that's where the discussion started. How can we be more proactive? Because to replace roads, you can't replace lives, replace people's belongings, all those things is very difficult. Cities are generally, or municipalities are generally reactive. So using the culvert under the road as an example, when it blocks, the reaction is to go and clean it. The difference in this project is we are trying to get rid of the alien vegetation and the solid waste prior to it becoming the blockage in the culvert. So it's very much more a proactive approach than a reactive one. One, it's looking at cross-sectoral issues or mandates that exist within those river streams. So where previously different resources did different functions, we're now looking at a single resource through the cooperative on the ground doing a number of those functions. So there was a whole lot of different departments going there. Areas of the city have grown, staff numbers haven't, so the number of times we can get to those different streams is actually reduced. So therefore we had poorly managed urban streams. And we said, guys, what about looking at one resource to do a whole lot of different things that we're all trying to get to? And everybody said, fantastic, good idea. We'd rather look at a co-op type program because then it's developing contractors or small businesses. And so that was Mark's idea, that we started looking at the co-op aspect.
My name is Pegani Ngubo, popular known as Mr. Blanket. I'm one of the directors of the Cleaner Arts and Culture Cooperative that is cleaning this stream. One of the reasons why we are doing stream cleaning is to avoid alien plants. That's one. Is to make sure that the stream is clean. Is to make sure that we avoid unnecessary stuff that is being brought onto the stream. You find your tires in there. Sometimes you find a car, just like one time we found somebody threw a car. I don't know how it rolled into the stream. So these things are the things that you come across when you're cleaning. It's good in one way. The environment is kept clean by stream cleaning. That's one. It's kept people working, because out of the cooperative we have 5 members that are directors, and then we have employed 8 people. So that means we're able to feed 8 families plus 5. So that gives a difference in terms of how this project is working now.
My name is Olile. My surname is Nyide. I reside around the area which is here in Kwamashu, and I'm an assessor for Sihlazimvelo. I work hand in hand with the Municipality of eThekwini. We started this project back in 2012. If you can take a look at this site around here, we had a lot of trees, a lot of alien invasive, a lot of dirt, and now it's all like this. It's beneficial to not only us as the cleaners, but to the community as well. As you can see, we've got people washing their vehicles, their tents and everything.
It has benefited the community at large, in a sense that when there is floods, ever since we started this project, there hasn't been a situation where we find people complaining that the water has gone into their houses. So that has been avoided by the project. Also, again, it has also created opportunities for the cooperative and for the workers as well, to be able to have a stipend that they're getting out of it.
Well, so now we started getting report backs from the communities that are working there. Things like, I feel safer in the area now. I know who my neighbour is because I can see them. It's not this big Spanish stand of Spanish reed. Obviously earning income, you heard some of the stories yesterday, it's changing people's lives. And we realized that it wasn't, and we were seeing less blockages and less damages. So we were seeing the result we wanted to realize, but we realized there were a lot of other benefits. Through the engagement of people that live within that catchment in the formation of the co-op that's doing the work, we're starting to see a change in the fact that the community is seeing the river as not a municipal problem, but in actual fact it's a communal problem or a communal space that needs to be managed for the benefit of not only the municipality and the municipal infrastructure, but also the community and the community infrastructure and well-being. So we're seeing a transformed attitude by the community towards that area, that space. It's no longer seen as a waste space, but rather a space that has value, a space where they're starting to feel safer in. So definitely transformative from that point of view.
Be able to intermingle with other cooperatives and be able to communicate with the challenges that we have, giving us different avenues to be able to look at in terms of working with the other departments in order to try and resolve the problem. So far, that has created an opportunity for us to be able to communicate and be able to try and solve the problem of floods and water destroying houses and destroying the environment around us.
While the co-ops are actually cleaning those streams, it's become easier for us to identify the areas where there is maybe sewage bursting. So in that way, it's easy to clean up and also quickly respond to inform people from waste department to come and fix those bursting of those sewage pipes, and then it can be fixed.
We've engaged with business. They're very excited about this type of project. Their business is sitting on the edge of the river like you've got at the Ella, where they've got problems with alien vegetation, waste, it smells. If that can change, it changes the value of their property, it changes the value of the environment that they work in. So there's not just the money points benefit, there's a number of other benefits. We're looking at closing the loops. You saw the plastic paver. If we could take the waste that's coming out of the river and the alien vegetation coming out of the river, it becomes a resource for another process.
This picture here is the picture of all the mixed plastics that we can use. And as you can see, there are pictures there that show dirty paint buckets, dirty buckets, polystyrene, yogurt cartons, milk cartons we know are easily recycled. But certainly the idea of the community being involved, so it's not necessarily only the cops, it's anyone who's unemployed in the community, we'd ideally like to say would be able to bring their waste to us. We reprocess it back into a product.
We're doing 300 kilometers at the moment with 59 co-ops. Even through the work with the CFF now, we've managed to get another 40 co-ops approved, which will now go into other ward areas. And the goal ultimately is to end up at 7,400 kilometers, which is this length of stream and river within our city. But in order to achieve that, we've got to take the learnings from here, we've got to take the learnings from here, and we're starting to pull all of those things together, do the cost benefit, so that we can start going to the city treasurer and say, spend 1 rand, you save 10 rand. We start mapping all of these and bringing them together. We're now taking the budget and we're spending it where it needs to be spent, on the eco-champs, on the people on the ground, on those resources. The unemployment is a problem, but it's a big resource that we can use. And how do we justify that? And that's really what we're trying to do. We don't want a 2-year project. You saw the problem here. We want it to be sustainable. So city-owned land, we can spend city money. If we take that 30 million and make it 300 million, it's not a big number out of the operating budget, but we take 300 kilometers and move it up to 3,000 kilometers. It can make a massive difference.
For me, it's quite exciting, for example, to be part of the Sihlazimvelo Programme, looking at how we articulate a business case for that, look at upscaling, because that's really about putting rivers back at the heart of how we think about our cities, you know, really seeing them as the lifeblood of our cities. And when you start to do that, it inherently challenges a lot of how we think about what is infrastructure. You know, it's not just about dams and bridges, it's about our ecology and our environment. And so when you start thinking like that, it also challenges things around financial systems, how we think about assets, how we think about climate finance. Again, where it's not just about building retaining walls and seawalls, it's about fundamentally restoring the natural systems that really give us life.
Four or 5 years ago, I remember sitting with Joe and saying, we've got to find some money to start collating these benefits, because we realized there was just so much more than what we were reporting on or understanding. And also we wanted to expand this program because we realized the benefits that we were seeing, and it was a multitude of benefits. And we were fortunate enough, Joe came across, I remember Joe phoning me and said, we got a week, we got to put in an application to the C40 Climate Finance Facility. They set up to assist municipalities to take a project put it into a bankable form so we can start accessing some international funding in the climate space. Because if we can get rehabilitated streams through this program, the risk of higher intensity storms, more frequent floods, if we've got managed streams, the damage risk is reduced, even though we have an increase in these events. Sihlazimvelo isn't the only good work that's being done. There's waterways as well. So it's changed to Transformative River Management Program is the name that we're talking about now. And the reason is because we've got to pull in all of the work that's happening. And if we call it Sihlazimvelo, then the good work that's been done under the Palmead system or under the Ella system or under the Sustainable Natural Resources, because you guys have also got some programs. We don't want to, it's not a conflict, it's taking the learnings and bringing it all together into a Transformative River Management Program.
So the work we're doing with the C40 and CFF is really looking at how do we articulate those costs, how do we quantify those costs so that we can show this is a better way of doing business within the city. Intuitively, we're saying that it's a more cost-effective way of managing the city and these spaces.
The success of the Silhanzimvelo Programme piqued the interest of the C40 Cities Finance Facility. This international body facilitates access to finance for cities' infrastructure projects that address the climate crisis.
The C40 is a global partnership of cities throughout the world. There's more than 100 cities that are part of the C40 network. And the City Finance Facility is a partnership between the C40 and GIZ to help municipalities across the world to access climate finance. The vision of the Transformative River Management Program, or the TRMP, is to support the city to adapt 7,400 kilometers of rivers and streams to climate change in a way that generates valuable spaces, that closes the loops and promotes recycling, that creates jobs and supports the green economy, that builds communities and works in partnership with all stakeholders to ensure sustainable management of the surface water resources of the city. In order to do this, the TRMP is building on a number of key initiatives, including the Sihlanzimvelo project, the Ella River project, the Palmead River Rehabilitation Project, and the great work of Durban Green Corridor throughout the city. It's imperative that we use ecological infrastructure in the TRMP, not least because of the fact that all rivers, no matter how much they are adapted to the urban environment, are inherently ecological infrastructures. Ecological infrastructures are naturally ecological, and the beauty is that inherently being low-tech, they create jobs in communities, potentially create potential for enterprise development, and therefore become part of a sustainable urban future.
What assists us in terms of making the decision is because we share the same interest, of of improving the ecological infrastructure, depending of, even though we are using different approaches, because as a climate department, we are looking at adaptation side of things. So if you are talking about the climate adaptation, you are talking about improving the condition of ecological infrastructure. Even though you are wearing a lens of a climate perspective, you've got UKZN. As much as they are doing research around the social aspect, again, the angle that they are looking at, it's around the climate resilience. You know, how can they improve the resilience of our community within, how can they improve the resilience of community to the impact of climate change. So all these actors, as much as they are doing different things, but in the sense they are connected under one big objective of the project, to improve the ecological condition.
Through our programs as environmental health, this has opened our eyes in terms of how to channel our resources and also planning. Actually, we looked at the priorities in terms of our work. It's not about a department, it's a vision of the city. So all of us, we look at how best can we do what we need to do. We went deeper in terms of even looking from an environmental point of view, that this is where the problem is, this is where we need to improve, this is what we need to focus, not for now, for the 10 coming years, not only as a city, because we also have national mandate, we've got a lot in terms of global, so I think it's very important.
What we're saying is it's not business as usual. You can't just change small elements of society, you have to change the whole socio-ecological system of society. It has to be an all of society response.
I think it's part of the DNA of our approach is that it needs to be a partnership approach. It needs to be a partnership between the private sector, who are not currently involved, government, who needs to pay for some aspects of it, and the community, who needs to participate in many ways.
I also think what has helped is that when the university came into Quarry Road as well, it has helped a lot in making sure that the municipality and the community start the conversation. Otherwise, it was us and them. True. But as soon as the university came in, then that has helped the process to at least go through. And then we started understanding each other from the municipality's views and also from the community views, that we were able to speak together.